Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. Welcome into another episode of this is not the Prospect Spotlight. I have the absolute wrong. Um, that's that's great. We are starting now. Welcome into it. I'll get that stuff up here in just a second. Welcome into another episode of OBR Game Tape here on the OBR streaming network. Make sure you're subscribe to the YouTube, get a thumbs up to this video, and hit that bell. This is pre-record Sunday morning, so full disclosure on that. So we'll touch on the Quinshon Judkins situation, but we don't know a lot about it personally, just because we haven't. There's no details as of this recording, so you may be watching it and there's more information. But we appreciate you being with us. Sam, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing all right. News was very, very disappointing last night, and just another thing for the fan base to deal with. And it's unfortunate to say, but it's kind of like everyone's getting used to this, and that's a terrible thing to get used to. So, again, we'll wait for more details, but it's very disappointing.
Yeah, it's kind of how I kind of felt about it last night. I was thinking when it came out, it's like, I got the background fixed for you guys. When it came out, it was just so crazy because I didn't know guys having another arrest and things like that. It was like there was nothing in his history that suggested anything like this. There were no red flags during the draft process. Andrew Mary's made a lot of bad mistakes when it comes to taking risks on character guys. I know that. I just don't think this is one of those cases. But yeah, I'm with you. It's just flat out disappointing. We'll find out, as we sit here, we don't have any details as we're pre-recording this episode. So again, you guys probably have a lot more details on this situation. And I'm sure Jeff Lloyd will touch on it before our show when he talks on Browns 3D at 6 p.m. Monday when he does that. But yeah, man, it's just like, it feels like, oh, cool. So, you were excited about this running back time, but we don't know what's going to happen. We have really very, very little details about it, but it just feels like there's always something. And this is the period of the summer where you just don't want to hear anything about your team. He remains unsigned, by the way. That's an interesting aspect of this thing that I'm sure is going to be talked about the next couple of days. Him and 30 of the other second-round picks remain unsigned, and then this situation happens. So, yeah, man, I'm with you. It's just flat-out disappointing, and, yeah, you're just used to it, I guess, at this point. It was just –
What do you say?
Yeah.
Nothing to say at this point.
There's nothing to say. It's just exhausting. But I'm sure everybody will talk ad nauseum about it, and it'll get covered as we get more details. So, guys, tonight we're going to talk about Maliek Collins, the pass rushing defensive tackle at the Browns, signed to a 2-year deal. What's really funny about Maliek Collins is that I am one of the people that often forgets about this signing. I think a lot of people just continue to forget that he signed. Just because, Mason Graham and all the other things that have happened. But he did sign a 2-year, $20 million deal. So we are talking about the Browns did give Maliek Collins a decent little bit of pocket change to come here. The 9-year veteran, he started last year. He started all 17 games for San Francisco. He had 5 sacks. One thing I wanted to note before I pass it over to you, and then we'll dive into his profile, and then we'll show a little bit of tape. My tape got all screwed up, so we won't have as much tape for you guys tonight, so I apologize. So Maliek Collins last year, 2 straight years of 45 total pressures on the interior. Keep in mind that Dalvin Tomlinson was the Browns' number 2 on pressures last year. Actually had a pretty good year pressure-wise. He had 36 pressures. But still, Maliek Collins comes in as, nearly double-digit pressures above him, multiple more sacks than him, and just a really long history. There's only one season where he had less than 27 pressures. He had a couple in his early years. He did 27, 30, and 29, but he has 3 seasons over 40, multiple years over 30, and then one season he only had 14. He had one really bad season. But you're talking about a guy that would have been number 2 in pressures from the defensive tackle spot last year. Granted, Zadarius Smith was only here for part of the year. He had 27 pressures before he was traded. But with Maliek Collins, he is what he is, and I'll talk about it. Sam's going to talk about it, but he's a pass rusher, and he's good at what he does. He's a great fit. He's an aggressive pass rusher, attacking style. He fits right in with Jim Schwartz. I think he has. I believe I read there was some time spent with Jacques Césaire. With Collins, there was some carryover somewhere in his past. He gave a profile about it. Let me. I'll find that in just a second. So Sam, I'll pass it over to you and just to talk a little bit about what you saw in Maliek Collins' game.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that, we talked about. You and I talked about this last week, but he's kind of like the forgotten man in the offseason, even though he was their biggest, free agency signing. So they went from Dalvin Tomlinson to Collins, and I think there were a couple different reasons for that. One of those reasons is saving like $6 to $8 million somewhere in there on the cap. Now Tomlinson is in Arizona. Overall,
We kind of lost your audio. I'm not sure what happened there.
Hello?
There you go.
All right, we're back. I don't know. I'm having issues this morning. So what I was saying was going from Dalvin Tomlinson to Maliek Collins saves you money, but it also, I think again, we had to look at this kind of in a vacuum at the time of the signing, right? And then now we have a bigger picture of their goal with the defensive tackle room because of, through the draft. So when Collins was brought in, Mason Graham was not in the picture, right? So you had Tomlinson is pretty much the only guy in that room who is like a run defender, or a guy who you could say like, oh yeah, he can play one tech pretty well. He has like the body style, the strength, the physical skill set for that. Collins is not that player, right? He's definitely smaller. He's definitely lighter. And so one of the concerns was, okay, you're swapping Tomlinson for Collins. Yes, you're getting a better pass rusher.
Oh no. Something happened with the. We're having some technical difficulties tonight, so we'll get Sam back here as soon as we can. So as Sam was kind of talking about there, that's one thing about Maliek Collins that you. Okay, here it comes. Here we go. Good. We're back with. I got video, but your audio is all choppy again. I heard that sigh.
All right. Okay. I have no idea what's going on. This has not happened before. So, okay. So where was I? Going from Tomlinson to Collins, right? So you're losing that run defense skill set because Collins is not as big as Tomlinson, nor is he as proven a run defender. In fact, that's one of his, I would say, weaknesses is he's not very good against the run. However, he, I think, more than makes up for that with his ability to rush the passer, right? He's not the biggest guy. He's not the most explosive or athletic player, but he is physical and he is violent. And I think that's something that the Browns lacked in the defensive tackle room. And I think he brings that, and I think it's a whole different dynamic. He has a variety of pass rush moves, as we'll see in some of these clips. And it includes a spin. His hands are active. He uses them constantly. He's got a swim in a club, and then he just likes to run through people with the bull rush too. So yeah, there's a variety of ways that he can win, and he can win either lined up as a traditional 3-tech, which I think he's best at, or he can be kicked outside to defensive end and still find success against tackles. So I think it's going to be interesting, especially with a different defensive end group for the Browns as well, to see how they kind of mix and match some of these pieces, because there's a lot of versatility in both of those rooms. And we'll have to see how that all shakes out. With the addition of Mason Graham through the draft, that room becomes even more interesting, because I think they're going to rely on Graham as that 1-tech, because he's really the only guy in the room who can do that. Before Graham, it would have been a combination of Shelby Harris and Juwan Briggs, even though Harris is not the kind of guy you want to rely on in that role, and Briggs is very unproven. Now you have a top flight prospect who did that a lot in college, who did very well. And I think, in hindsight, the move to go from Tomlinson to Collins makes a lot more sense now because of Graham. But the Browns didn't know that they were going to get Graham back when they signed Collins. So, you got to take all that in context. But overall, I think, he's a guy who, again, I think he goes kind of forgotten, but I think he's going to make a big impact, and people are going to be like, wow, like this was definitely an upgrade in the pass rush department. Just some numbers here, for context before we get into the tape. Last season, Tomlinson had a 8.3% pass rush win percentage. That ranked 53rd among eligible defensive tackles. Collins was at 12%, and that was 17th. So that's a significant jump.
Yep.
Tomlinson's pressure rate was 11.4. Collins actually had a lower pressure rate at 10.3%. But the true pass rush win percentage, try saying that 5 times fast. Tomlinson was 46th in the league at 13.6%. And then Collins was 22nd in the league at 16.3%. So, maybe 2-3% doesn't seem like a big jump, but that's a significant amount over the course of a season. Yeah. And the numbers reflect that, but once you look at the tape, you can see, okay, this is a different level of a pass rusher. And, I think the Browns are expecting him to continue that this season.
Yeah, he is what he is kind of the way I wanted to describe him, because he's got 9 years now, 9-year veteran. I was talking to, I was doing a draft pod the other day, talking about edges, and one thing that I was talking with a buddy of mine, Randall Slifer, and one thing he talks about when he looks at these prospects on the defensive line is he looks at the negative plays added together, like tackles for loss, not just sacks, but tackles for loss, pressures, hits, those things. And he looks at himself and he's like, if a guy's doing 2 to 3 of those plays a game, that's 2 to 3 drives a game that are killed. That's significant. And that's kind of where you come out on Collins, where he's able to get a big pressure or a sack or something of that nature a few times a game to end a few drives, if that's what it is. Because you, like you said, you talked about, it's a couple percentage points, but that could be a drive a game. If that's a drive a game that he impacts in such a way that it gets the defense off the field, that's significant. And you talked about his violent hands. Man, he wants to get his hands to your chest and take control. He does there was a sack that I had highlighted for all of you, and then my video somehow went corrupted. It was against, I was about to say it was against Houston in 2023, but that's who he played for in 2023.
You have practice tape.
Yeah, no, it was, oh, good Lord, Carolina. It was Carolina, Bryce Young. And there's this rep where, like you said, he's not super explosive. I do think he has a quick step off the line of scrimmage, but he's not like a super twitchy athlete. So he's not Mike Hall. Let's put it that way. He's not Mike Hall when it comes to that side of things, like the explosive athlete type of things. Not that he's a bad athlete, but like you said, it's just not. But there's a stack and shed where he just kind of, you see him just grab the pads and just kind of just, and it doesn't look crazy. Like if you're just watching, if you're not specifically watching him, it doesn't look like a crazy play, but he just kind of throws the guy to the side and just goes right to Bryce Young and takes him down. And it's like, he's got such active hands. Like you said, the pass rush moves are there. It's a deep bag. It's like, you know what he is. I think I looked at some of his run blocking grades. Like last year, he had like run defense. He had like a 45 run defense grade last year. So yeah, like you said, he is what he is and he's not what he's not. But he's really good pass rusher on the interior. If you can tell me that we're going to get another 40 plus pressures from him like he's had the last couple of years with Myles Garrett and then all of the other pieces, like like you said, it felt weird because you lost somebody that could play the run, but then you got him and it all came together really perfectly when they drafted Mason Graham. But like, yeah, I just think he's an aggressive attacking style defensive tackle. I think sometimes he needs to be able to convert there's too many pressures where he gets close and he can't convert it to sacks. And sometimes you feel like you wish he was able to close the deal a little bit more. But in terms of like, he has a role on this team. That role is to push the pocket vertically because that's where he's going to get cleanup sacks. I can see him having 7 or 8 sacks, which he's normally like a 5 sack guy. I can see him getting a few extra sacks because Myles Garrett is going to push quarterbacks up into the pocket. And that's what they just haven't had, man. Consistently is a guy in the middle that's there to clean up for Myles Garrett. There's a lot of times quarterbacks step up and out of the pocket and extend plays and avoid pressure. And they're like, enough's enough. And you bring in a guy who specializes at preventing that in Maliek Collins, and you're in a pretty good spot, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah, but sometimes I like to Google like other write-ups on players and just see like, how did other people see this signing? Like when he signed in San Francisco last year, like how did the San Francisco content creators and writers see it, stuff like that. And I love AI because it'll do a good job of like summing that stuff up for you, except for the fact that it was like, he can it's like he can affect the game in multiple facets, particularly in the run game. And I'm like, ooh, not doing good there, AI, because that is not true. I will say, does he make some plays? Yeah, because he's got that stack and shed and those violent hands, and he can. But like, I'm putting him in on third downs. Like, he's just playing pass rush snaps to me.
Right.
But so I will give the floor back to you, Mr. Pennick, so we can talk about some of the stuff.
All right, so first clip here is against the Los Angeles Rams, so he's on the right side here. He does have a pretty good defensive tackle aesthetic, I will say. You have a visor and then the taped fingers, so I'm a fan of that. So that gets him some bonus points right off the bat. So here, I mean, this is what we're talking about, the violence, the explosiveness, not in terms of burst off the line or athletic ability, but in his hands, right? So when he commits to a move, he is explosive with that. Like, he's full force into it. And oftentimes that throws offensive linemen off. So it was against Havenstein, and then like, you don't see that very often. You haven't seen that very often from Browns players, right? It just is a different kind of guy than bearing down on Stafford. Again, doesn't get there, but that's a throwaway. So
Ooh.
this he puts Dotson on the ground here. This is fake outside, get him to commit, jump back inside, and then extend that arm, get him completely off balance. Ends up with a sack.
That was a dirty move. That was dirty. Ooh. Broke my ankles.
Yeah. He is an entertaining watch, that's for sure. Even if he's not really like doing much in terms of hits or pressures, it's just fun to watch him because of how he plays. So here he's bridging multiple gaps here, all the way over to the left side of the line, and powers through. It's against the center and Tevin Jenkins. I mean, he's got, again, there's a variety of ways that he wins. It's not just quickness, it's not just power, but he's got a lot of power in his frame. He's got an interesting build physically, and it's almost like he's very barrel chested. He just looks like a barrel, like it doesn't. There's no change in density bottom to top, and I think it allows him to pack a lot of power into his moves. Next here is Zach Martin here on the right side. I mean, again, the violence, the initial contact, and then moving again. That's a run defense rep. So, like you said, there will be some plays that he does make. He's not like, a wet paper bag against the run, but he's not going to be one of your top run defenders, right? So, but that's okay because it's not what he's been brought in to do. So that those are some of the things that he can contribute in, and now we're going to look at some of the different ways that he wins.
There was just to briefly to say it. There was a little bit of an update this morning now on the Quinshon Judkins situation. He was arrested at approximately 9 a.m. yesterday. During this is a statement from the Fort Lauderdale Police Department that includes, during their preliminary investigation, it was determined a battery had occurred. And then just a key word here right now, it's still labeled as misdemeanor. So
all right, we'll see what happens.
I'm sorry, did I bring it on too soon?
Oh.
I thought you were ready for me to put.
I thought I was too. I think it just played over. All right, we're on the ball today.
It's been a phenomenal show.
That kind of a morning. All right. So he's on the left side of the line here. The Tyler Smith he's against here. So now he's breaking out his spin move. And this isn't like a Mason Graham spin move that isn't, it's still work in progress. Collins can really gain some ground with his spin, and it's when he uses it, he can actually, make use of it. So
when you look at it,
go
ahead.
It's something he'll break out now and again. It's not like a consistent thing, but he does have that in his toolbox, and it's like a legitimate move.
Yeah, it's like when you look at where he is on that play when the spin starts to where he stops. I mean, you kind of said it. It's like you said, it's the ground. Like, look at him right there. He's all the way on the outside shoulder. He ends up halfway to the center. Like, he's well on the outside. He ends up so far. It's like, and you can see the offensive lineman's got his arm fully stretched out, and it's all he can do just to get fingertips on him. Like, that's a good spin move.
Right. Yep. So now we're over here, right side of the line. And he'll be lined up as an end from time time and time again. So this is, different kind of a spin, but it's still a spin. Again, so he starts here. He doesn't gain as much ground this time, but it's still effective because he's now in a position where he has the advantage in the situation, right? He has leverage vertically, right? The guard is still trying to, he's still in the play, but eventually he gets clean. It's just, that's a quicker throw. So again, the spin is something that he has, and it's not something that it's like, oh, he's working on that, maybe it'll be effective at some point. Like when he breaks out the spin, it typically works. All right, where is he here? So now he's in, he'll break out the white sleeves sometimes too, which is also pretty good. But again, this is like, look at this get off. Like, you talk about violent. Like, he just looks crazy sometimes, and it's just fun to watch.
Like he was like, boop, boop, boop. It's like, where am I going? Where am I going? Then he just kind of shrugs him off.
Guard, like man.
Oh, poor. Oh,
just man, like wow. The amount of like he's staying so low to the ground too as he's coming off the line of scrimmage. So all that power and leverage is just he's like coiled up like a spring at this point, and then he just launches not even into the offensive lineman. It's just like through the point in space where he was, and then the lineman just evaporates and gets out of the way. It's almost like the old Reggie White hump move a little bit, which is always fun to see. So that's one of my favorite reps. I think it's just awesome. Can't exactly tell you what it's called or what exactly he's doing, but it looks awesome and it works really well. So that's all you need to know.
Well, that's part of that rep that I was talking about where he kind of stacked and shed the lineman against Carolina a couple of years ago. I was like trying to look up. I'm like, is there a technical term for what he did? And it is close to, stack and shed is the closest term. But yeah, I was in the same boat. I'm like, I'm not really sure what you're doing here, what it's called, if you were taught that, but you have really strong, powerful hands, and you just kind of discarded the guy and you went to the quarterback, and it's like, okay, all right. I mean, what am I going to be mad about something like that? No, absolutely not.
Now do it again.
Exactly. Yeah, just do it again. Who gives a shit?
Here's his, arm over. So again, the Niners liked to move their offensive linemen around. So they like to do stunts, gap exchanges, things like that. So a lot of the times, the gap that he's rushing is not the gap that he's lined up in off the snap. So here he's in the B gap on the right side. He ends up in the A gap, shading the right side of the center. So he's got to come up all the way over the guard.
Yeah.
The center's got the initial punch here, swipes with his outside arm, and then arm over, clear path to the quarterback.
He just kind of pushes people away. Like it
Yep.
Because like you said, the swipe, arm over, but there's also just a subtle
When he wins it, he makes it look pretty easy oftentimes too. And it's not like oh wow, that was effortless, smooth, athletic ability. It was just like it didn't look like the offensive lineman gave him much resistance just because just there's a lot of power and violence, and you can do a lot of damage as a defensive tackle with those two things. Here again, lined up more outside, inside shade of the tackle here on the left side. Again, like the way he comes off the line of scrimmage, he's almost like turning like head fake and then going back over the other side. And then the way that he moves his arms, like look at his right arm here, and then he comes swings it in this way, just like smacks the guard's arm out of the way, comes back with the spin. Like, when's the last time you've seen a Browns defensive tackle do something like that? It just doesn't happen very often.
It's one of those. No, I don't even know what I was going to say. Just because. Oh, yeah. So he's one of those players where, like you said, it's so unorthodox.
Yep.
Some of the things that he does that, like, you got to feel like if you're an offensive lineman, you're just looking at him and you're like, what the hell is he doing? What is that?
Like, you have no idea what to expect.
And, like, he's made a career out of it. It's like, it's impressive.
Yeah. He's just like, I think the word I would use to describe his pass rush style is just unhinged. He's just crazy, and it's awesome. So he's inside shade of the tackle here on the right side now. And that's Zach Martin. So look, he active hands here, up and down, fighting. So right here, Martin, is where he wants to be, right? He's got his hands inside of Collins' chest. He just rips down. Again, this isn't a pressure. This isn't really affecting the play, but we're focused more on the technique here. I mean, that's a Hall of Famer right there, and he gets him on the ground. So stuff like that where he's able to win in a variety of different ways in a variety of situations, even if you don't always know exactly what he's doing, but that's okay as long as it's effective. And then here's just a straight bull rush over here on the right side of the line.
Yeah.
It gets, affects the play there, quarterback hit. So when he's allowed to just pin his ears back and rush the passer, which I think the Browns are primarily going to have him do, he's really good. I'm going to be interested to see kind of how they rotate all these different guys, because there's a couple different skill sets, there's different body types, different things that these guys are better at than others. But I think the benefit of that is you can always keep these guys fresh for what they're best at. And if it's a short yardage situation, I don't think he's going to be on the field, and that's fine. When it's a third down and you need a stop, he's going to be rushing the passer, and they're going to be able to rotate these guys all around, figure out what role is best for them throughout the game based on the opponent, the situation. And I think it just gives you a lot of different options to mix and match. And I think that was the goal of building this defensive tackle room, because I think the players that they've brought in the past, they've also been trying to do that, and it hasn't really ever worked the way that they planned it. And now I think with a premium prospect in Mason Graham, you've got Mike Hall, you have some of these other veterans in the room, and then you add a violent pass rusher like Collins, I think that has the makings of an improved room over last season. Whereas, if Graham wasn't in the picture, I think you're a little bit worried based on the the fits here. But now in hindsight, with everything, all the context, the room as it stands, I think could be definitely better than last year. And a lot of it's going to hinge on how much of an impact Graham can make as a rookie, which is difficult to do. But if he's as good as the Browns think he is, and as good as he of a prospect as we think he is, he's going to be able to make an impact, and that's going to greatly benefit the room as a whole, and it's going to help guys like Collins to be even more impactful than maybe they were in previous seasons.
Yeah, I was one of the ones where I was like, well, I love what you're doing at the pass rush defensive tackle, but I'm not sure who's going to stop the run. Um, but that's what I kept looking at in the draft because it was such a deep defensive tackle draft, and then they went and got who I think was the best run defender in the draft, and I'm like, okay, here we go, let's do it. Um, yeah, it's very. I want to see how it goes because I start thinking about you talk about rotations. I start thinking about the rotations, and I'm like, the potential if everything goes right. If Mike Hall stays healthy and takes a step forward, Mason Graham can be, like you said, impactful against the run. Because you touched on it. Defensive tackle is one of the hardest positions for a rookie to make an impact. There's just a lot going on in that condensed part of the field in the trenches there. It's contingent on some guys taking step forwards, even on the outside, like Mason. Isaiah McGuire, Alex Wright coming back healthy, things like that. But if you look at the potential and body types, as you touched on, it's there. Like what you want, it's there if everybody does their part and everybody's able to be who the Browns think they are. It could be a top 10 defensive line. It could be higher than 10. It could be closer to, 7, 6. There's a lot of ifs in there. But they've definitely collected, as you said, a bunch of different body types, and they tried to where it's like, Dalvin Tomlinson, the thing that I loved about him, not quite as good of a pass rusher as Maliek Collins, but he was good at both. He provided you a pretty good floor as a pass rusher and a run defender.
Right.
So you could put him down there every down. So that was one thing that I really loved about that signing when they got him. I think Mason Graham and even Mike Hall can get there. Can be guys that are good at both. But right now, we know that Mason Graham's really good as a run defender with pass rush upside, and that we saw Mike Hall last year have some good pass rush reps with some run defense upside because of his skills. It's like we don't necessarily have that floor is lower, but the ceiling is really there. The ceiling is really there with this group. And Maliek Collins, I mean, you just saw it with the tape. It's like, this dude can rush the passer, man. Like in a way that is going to make Myles Garrett's job easier. Like, would I be shocked by, like I said, 7 sacks earlier? Would I be shocked by 7 or 8 sacks because 3 of them are cleanups where Myles Garrett just forces him up? No, that's actually why I think they got him, because he has such an aggressive style where he's going to be coming and straight at you, and Myles Garrett's going to be looping around. He's like, where we go? And I expect some of those the combinations for third and longs, like Maliek Collins and Mike Hall on the inside with, or even Mike Hall or Maliek Collins goes to the outside, Alex Wright comes inside. It's just the way that you can deploy some of these pass rushing talents that has me very excited. Yep. Okay, guys, we appreciate you so much. Make sure you're subscribed and give us a thumbs up. Hope you guys enjoyed this pre-recorded episode. We are off next week because next Monday is the day before training camp. And the OBR will have their training camp preview special here on the channel. And we'll talk to you guys in the future about, because of our schedules, GameTape probably won't be able to happen during the season because we won't get all 22 until like Tuesday, and I work my evening shift and Sam works during the day. So it'll probably be hard for us to continue to do the show as the season gets started in this particular show. But there's plenty of content on this channel, so make sure you subscribe. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you again next time. As always.